I'm going to show you how to configure FreeNAS as an iSCSI target and allow VMware ESXi 4.0 to connect to it. So on one computer I have 192.168.11.30 FreeNAS installed. I'm going to log in with admin and the default password FreeNAS. On here I have FreeNAS 0.7.1 installed. I'm going to go to Disks Management and I'm going to add a disk. I have two disks installed on here. The first one's a 1 gig disk, that's where the FreeNAS operating system is installed, and a second disk which is an 8 gig disk. I'm going to call this iSCSI hard drive and I'm going to leave it unformatted. Hit the add button and apply. Next I'm going to go to format that disk, choose my 8 gig iSCSI HD and set it to UFS, Universal File System, and give it a name iSCSI HD. Format the disk. Hit formatted. Now I go to disks mount point and I'm going to create a mount point. And we are going to choose the 8 gig disk and we're going to name this iSCSI mount. And I'm going to hit add. Apply changes. Now that I have a mount point, I am going to go to my iSCSI target. And first thing you have to do is on the iSCSI target under services is enable it. I'm going to change this long lengthy name to iqn.test.lab and leave the rest of it default. Hit save and restart. Okay, and then go to targets and I'm going to add a target, an extent. Extent 0 is going to be a file. Now this is my mount point that I created, the iSCSI mount. So I browse to that and choose iSCSI mount, hit OK. Now we chose type is going to be file. You can use a device, an entire device, or an entire ZFS volume. So we chose file, so this is where I'm going to use, I'm going to create iSCSI file and create a 7 gigabyte. Since this is 7.7 gigabytes in actual size, I'm going to set it to 7. You must set it just a few megabytes smaller than the actual storage space. Hit add and apply changes. So now that I have an iSCSI file as an actual extent, I'm going to need to actually create this file on this mount point. So I'm going to go to the console of the FreeNAS box. Here's the console. You see all the stuff I've been working on. I'm going to hit 6 to go to the shell, and I'm going to change directory to mount iSCSI mount, enter, and do an ls-l. There's no file there, so I'm going to type touch iSCSI.file, which is the name of the file that I wanted to create. Now I do an ls-l, and there's my 0-byte file, iSCSI file. I'm going to hit the minimize. Okay, now before we can add a target, we need an initiator and a portal. So we're going to go to portals and add a portal. Portal is the TCP port number that the connection is going to be made. I'm going to add, and that is the IP address of my FreeNAS box. Then I'm going to go to initiators, and the initiator is going to be the VMware server. So I'm going to allow all on this network, meaning anything can initiate with me on the 192.168.11 network. And hit add and apply changes. I could specify a specific IP address if I wanted to. Now we can go back to targets and add the actual target. And this target is going to be called disk 0. We can give it an optional friendly name, but we're not going to. So we scroll down here And you can see the storage is the extent 0 that we created, which is the iSCSI.file. And we have no other options to change. That is the only extent that we have created. Hit the Add button. Apply changes. And now we have a 7 GB disk. So this file is going to be 7 GB. To verify, we're going to take a look at the console again and do an ls-l, and now you see our 0-byte file turned into a 7 GB file. Minimize that out of the way. And next we do is the VMware ESX Server. I have VMware ESXi 4.0 installed on this computer and the same network, 192.168.111.201. I'm going to go to the Configuration tab for the server and go to Storage. Under Storage, oops, I'm going to want to go Storage Adapters. Sorry about that. I'm going to click on iSCSI type, go to Properties, and notice it is disabled. I need to enable it. So I'm going to click on Configure and check Enabled, and it automatically creates an IQN iSCSI name. I'm going to leave that default. And it should show enabled. Then we go to Dynamic Discovery, and we want to type in, remove this, we want to type in the iSCSI server, 192.168.111.30, as I had in there before, but I forgot to remove it for this video. So we hit OK, and there it shows up, and it should show up in Static Discovery automatically. Here's my IQN test.lab, and hit close. So now it wants to scan all of the iSCSI adapter for any disks. Hit yes, and it should pop up down here, disk 0, extent 0. There's our iSCSI disk, LUN 0, and capacity 7 GB. Now that we have an iSCSI adapter with a disk, we need to add it to our storage. So we're going to go to the storage configuration under hardware, and we're going to add storage. Disk LUN, next. There it is, the disk from our iSCSI. Next. And it's going to initialize it. Partition's been created. And our data store name, and we'll call it iSCSI _data store. Next. Leave a default block size because they're large files for VMware, and hit next and finish. And now I have my original local data store on the local disk, and now my iSCSI data store. So now when you create new virtual machines, you can store them on the iSCSI data store.